So, what's up, everybody? My name is JJ Lewis, and I'm going to explain to you how I became a content creator accidentally at the age of 43. So, it had to be around October of 2015. I was doing what everybody else does, working a regular job. I had a decent paying job, a job that I really enjoyed. And I was with an organization that I had been with probably right around 4 years. And when I first got hired with that organization, I went in at kind of I would consider maybe an entry level kind of position. Um, and I quickly got promoted, got in there, was doing a great job, got promoted, was kind of on the fast track at that time. But I noticed as time went on that that department became what people call toxic. That environment just became unbearable. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you, I've never, ever, ever thought about resigning from a position in my adult life. And this particular department, though, it got to the point where it was just miserable to go to day to day. You know, you didn't know what to expect. There was always some kind of drama, always some kind of controversy. Somebody always had an issue. And like I said, a lot of it wasn't concerning me directly. Some of it did because I was in management in that particular department. And so I had to deal with some of those issues that were going on. So, um, but anyway, once that stuff started really just getting kind of unbearable, I just started thinking, like, man, is this what my life is going to be like? Am I going to live out the rest of my life in this position or with this organization dealing with these type of things? And I know stuff doesn't last forever. I knew eventually that stuff would probably maybe get better. I really didn't know, but I was at the point where I was just really fed up. So I just started praying, like I always do with any big decision I make. And I started talking to God and really asking Him, what I should do. Am I overreacting? Should I just hang in there and wait till things get better? And so it took me about a year between prayer, talking to my family, talking to my girl at the time, who was now my wife, my daughter. And over the course of that year, I got closer and closer to my decision. And I eventually decided to resign. And how I knew I was doing the right thing is because I was at total peace with my decision. I mean, no hesitation at all once I came to that final decision. And so, I contacted my boss and had a good sit down with her and told her what I was feeling, what I was thinking. And she totally understood. I mean, she's right there in the department with me. So she knew what was going on with that department. And eventually she ended up leaving. But anyway, told her I was going to resign and gave her my date. And she was actually happy for me. And it made me feel that much better. She was very supportive, and I really appreciated that. So I resigned from that department, from that job, left that organization. But the thing about it, I had no plans. I didn't even, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a job lined up. Uh, I had no roadmap on what to do, what my next step was going to be as far as a career. Sounds irresponsible, doesn't it? But, I will tell you that I was prepared. I was prepared mentally, I was prepared emotionally, and I actually had, financially, I was doing pretty good. I had a lot of savings, I had things in order with my finances and my bills. So that was honestly, and I thank God for it, that was the least of my worries. So it wasn't just a total, just irresponsible, rash move. I was strategic about it. So anyway, I'm resigned, and I can't remember exactly how much time had passed by, but I would say probably a good month or so. I was at home chilling, sitting on the couch, eating popcorn, just really enjoying not being at work. And I was on YouTube and I was looking at The Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God, DJ Envy, and at the time Angela Yee. And so I don't know, they weren't talking about anything in particular that related to what I had going on in my life, but I was just sitting there looking at them and thinking like, man, that just looks like a lot of fun just to be sitting down, having conversations, broadcasting, sharing your thoughts with people. And so for some reason, I thought to myself, I say, you know what? I want to start a podcast. And at that time, I knew zero about podcasting. I just knew that they were not as popular as they are now, of course, because this was back in 2015. But I knew about podcasts. I knew they were a way to broadcast, with a low barrier of entry. You don't have to be with a radio station. There's really no gatekeeping when it came to podcasting. So I just sat there and thought about it for maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And then I say, you know what? I'm going to do it. I want to do it. So I contacted my girl, again, who's my wife now. She was at work, and I called her and I said, you know what? I want to start a podcast. And she was like, a podcast? I was like, yeah, I want to do a podcast. And I said, I need you to help me out with it. And she was thinking like, okay, where's all of this coming from? So anyway, I sat there on the phone with her as long as she could talk. Like I said, she was at work, but she heard me out. I shared my vision, and she was like, you know what? Okay, let's do it. So a little time passed in between that conversation I had with her, but that was something that I could not get off of my mind. I was like, this is something that I gotta do, that I want to do. And just to give you a little backstory, I've always liked talk radio. I grew up in an era with my father. When I was a young kid, riding around with him in his car, he always listened to talk radio. So I know that's something that probably was already embedded in me, and I just didn't realize it. And I love microphones, I love audio, and I love just watching people just having those healthy conversations with each other. So anyway, um, we talked about it more and more, and we started trying to figure out, how does this whole podcast thing work? We had zero knowledge about the technical side of podcasting and how it works. How do you capture audio? Um, how do you edit? Where do you broadcast? Where do you put your files? How do you get people to see it? Are we going to do it on YouTube? We had no answers to any of those questions. So we sat down. It probably took us a good 8 or 9 months. We did research like most people do. We got on YouTube. We looked for articles on the internet and found out what type of equipment we needed. Where you actually put those audio files so people can access them, how to record, how to edit, all the technical side of podcasting. We did all of our research for, like I said, maybe 8 or 9 months. And at some point, I knew we had to do it. We had to execute on that. So, what made me go ahead and make that final commitment to it was I started buying equipment. I started buying microphones, audio interface, and as far as a camera, I use what I use now, what I've used ever since 2015, my iPhone. So we already had a camera. And so, anyway, did the research on all that equipment, bought it all, and we eventually recorded our first podcast episode. And we titled the podcast The Platform 314. And so we just basically talked about stuff that we wanted to talk about. We had no real format. We just knew we wanted to get on there and have some fun, share our thoughts. So we did it. We recorded it. We ended up uploading our first video to YouTube. We had a website. I forgot about that. We actually created a website. Then we put it in at the time, all the podcast destinations that were available, like Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, I believe. Can't quite remember. So this was an especially exciting time for me because we took something that was just merely an idea and made it a real thing. We had equipment, we had our cameras, we had some technical knowledge now, and we actually made it happen. We uploaded our first video to YouTube. We promoted everything on Facebook and Instagram. And that was something that was new to me too, because I had never been on social media. I knew about it, of course, but I never had an account. I never got on there. I never knew what the world of social media was about. So that was something new for me. It was exciting. There was a big learning curve with all of that stuff. But nonetheless, we put that episode out, promoted it on social media, and it got some decent attention. It didn't blow up or go viral or anything like that, but it did catch the eye of a lot of people who we were Facebook friends with. And so, what really blew my mind is that people were actually listening to the podcast. People were responding to it. That was mind blowing to me, even though I knew that was the whole purpose behind it. But for some people to actually care enough or think enough or be curious enough to listen to what we have to say, man, to me that was powerful. So it was just the beginning, and so that's how I accidentally became a content creator. Once I got that charge, that energy from that excitement, man, I didn't even look back, So we just started creating episodes, and man, I think within our first probably season of the Platform 314 podcast. I can't remember exactly how many episodes that we created and produced, but we did quite a few in that season. So, and then I'm going to tell you guys something else, but this is going to be a whole nother video, and I'll talk about it later. But from that initial podcast that we did, we actually turned podcasting into a business and started producing podcasts for other organizations, other individuals, with their own personal brand. And nobody wanted to do the technical side of it or knew how to do the technical side of it. So, of course, the light came on, and I talked to my wife and I said, you know what? We can turn this thing into a business. And that's exactly what we did. So I want you guys to stay tuned to my channel. I hope you enjoy the content, and I hope this wasn't all over the place. This is my very first video on my YouTube channel, so please forgive me for that. But anyway, stay tuned. I'm going to continue to share my journey, and I hope you enjoy it. And my entire goal with this thing is to inspire you and let you know that it doesn't take a whole lot. I'm still recording with my iPhone. I've been recording with an iPhone since 2016, and I don't see that changing in the foreseeable future. It works. I got my Rodecaster Pro. I got all of my microphones, everything that I need. So there's no stopping now. But anyway, I enjoy content creation, and I hope you guys do too. And I hope this inspires you to keep doing your thing. If you're already doing it, if you're not, if you're just watching, consuming content like I did for a long time and just trying to get inspired and take that leap, please do it. Please be inspired, be motivated, and get it done, because it's nothing. Once you get past that initial thought of, should I do it? Can I do it? Will people listen? Do people care? Man, and you hear it all the time. People always tell you, just do it. And I'm here to tell you, just do it. There's nothing to it. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you for joining me. Peace out. Catch you on the next one.